You asked, we answered. This is a full review of the SoundCore Space A40 versus some of the best in the business. The Samsung Galaxy Buds 2, the One More Evo and the Edifier NeoBuds Pro. Goedendag, weer DHRME. Don't help read my electronics. Guys, for the sake of transparency, all these buds except Samsung were sent to us for review, but that does not affect our transparency. And talking about transparency, how do these earbuds perform for transparency? The other guy will tell you.
So here's the thing, Edifier is by far the best for transparency, with a few caveats. There is a considerable amount of white noise on the max setting, but you still get very good and clear transparency performance. To get rid of that white noise, all you gotta do is turn the ambient sound slider to -3, and a lot of that just disappears with a slight impact on the ambient sound. Even on this setting, it beats the SoundCore for transparency overall. Second in line is the Samsung Galaxy Buds 2. Just to be clear, that's the Galaxy Buds 2, not the Buds Pro or the Buds 2 Pro, or Samsung as we'll call it for the rest of this video. With that out of the way, Samsung, even though it doesn't amplify as much as the Edifier NeoBuds Pro, would be our pick if you wanted to have buds in for a longer period of time on transparency, and that is because they are cleaner sounding. Their ambient mode has a 5-point scale and you can change the left and right ambient volume separately. The SoundCore and the One More both let in ambient sound, but they have kind of opposite philosophies. The SoundCore tries to eliminate all low-end noise in ambient mode, which is great if you're in a noisy environment, but leaves voices sounding very tinny. Whereas the One More Evo's transparency mode lets you hear everything that's going on around you. Switching between pass-through or voice enhancement in the app makes no difference. The bass frequencies pretty much are brought in all the time on the One More. Now, this is really good if you don't have background disturbance. The voices will sound rich and full, and you can hear the bass in a person's voice, for example. But it's a double-edged sword in the sense that it really is all in or all out. In day-to-day use, we find ourselves preferring the transparency on the SoundCore, but the One More definitely has a place in this ranking. Neither of these, however, is as good as the Edifier or the Samsung, which do well even at lower volumes.
For ANC, the tables are turned and the Buds 2 is clearly the worst of the lot, and the SoundCore slots in at a second after the Edifier NeoBuds Pro, which for some reason still have some of the best ANC we have tested on earbuds. There is some difference between number 1 and number 2 here, and also a big distance between the One More at number 3. But the Edifier reigns supreme for overall attenuation of sound. One More and SoundCore do have wind noise reduction in their apps though, which might be useful if you're out and about. In terms of single ear use, you can have either ANC or transparency with just one bud in on the SoundCore, whereas the One More and Edifier can't do ANC or transparency with just one bud in. It's a niche use case, but we get a lot of comments about this, so we thought we'll mention that. Samsung lets you do this too, but you need to do this via accessibility for some reason. A lot of Samsung's features are in that sense inaccessible. The most unique aspect of the SoundCore buds is how tiny they are. They are very compact in your ear. Definitely a huge improvement from the Liberty 3 Pro, which we never quite liked the look or fit of. Only the Edifier here has the stem style design, which we do not mind too much. The smallest in-ear here would be a toss-up between the Samsung Buds 2 and the SoundCore Space A40. Incredibly, the Space is a little smaller than the Galaxy. But a very real problem with the Samsung is that it's all touch surface, so if you adjust the fit in your ears, you end up triggering accidental touches. No such issues with the SoundCore design. Unfortunately, the case, although small, isn't the smallest one out there. It has a little bit of girth, and the pill shape is our least favorite shape to pocket. But we'll forgive SoundCore because these aren't huge by any stretch of the imagination. Out of all the cases here, the One More Evo just feels much more premium, and easily it's our favorite case to carry around. The Samsung is also compact, but it's a bit thicker than the SoundCore.
In terms of battery life on the earbuds themselves, the Space A40 ties with the One More Evo. 8 hours of battery life out of the buds with ANC on, which is pretty phenomenal. We'll come to the noise cancelling in a bit. This is something special, given that these are also the tiniest buds on the list. The Samsung, for example, comes with just 5 hours on the earbuds. We found the SoundCore branding a bit shady though. On the case, they clearly mentioned 10 hours of battery life from the buds and 40 from the case, but that is with noise cancelling off. It's a strange choice, but let us just tell you that irrespective of that little faux pas, the case still gives you 32 hours of juice with ANC on. The next closest is the Buds 2 and the Evo with just 20 hours from the case. So overall, despite the slightly misleading marketing, the battery life numbers are pretty solid, and in our day-to-day use, the numbers bore out. Of course, you are going to get a lower number with LDAC on. Not to judge a case by its size, but usually a bigger case means bigger battery and or more battery features. The Edifier is the largest of the bunch, but it doesn't shine in the battery life department, nor does it come with wireless charging, which all the others offer. And if you're all about procrastination and leave your device charging to the last minute, then go for the SoundCore or the One More. They'll give you 4 hours of playback with just 10 or 15 minutes of charge respectively.
For touch controls, we give the win to the SoundCore here. There are 3 fully customizable gestures, and you can also change the touch control scheme for just one ear, which is pretty sweet. You can choose what the controls do if you have only one earbud in versus both buds. Volume controls are turned off by default with just one ear in, which makes sense. And the best part, the touch surface area is different from the adjustment surface area, which means if you have to refit this in your ears, you will not accidentally activate any touches. As we said before, all of these grip our ears pretty well. If we really had to think about it, the One More would probably have the loosest grip. But everyone's ears are different, so you're going to have to judge this for yourself. What is objectively true here for everyone's ears is the IP rating. The Edifier has the best IP rating by a long way. At IP54, it's the only one on this list that also has dust resistance. The worst among these is the Galaxy Buds 2, which gives you a measly IPX2. All the rest should be fine for sweaty workouts and a light rain at IPX4.
We find all these buds to be very comfortable. SoundCore offers 5 sizes of tips, and the Edifier offers you a whole bunch more. So if you're usually someone whose ear holes are always in between sizes, the NeoBuds Pro may be a great bet. But as we said, these are all rather comfortable. For an actual secure fit while doing your wild workouts, come on, we can pretend. The Samsung and the Edifier are our pick. And for sleeping in, the Samsung and SoundCore are our pick.
Now for the microphones, we were testing these, and you know what? We just recorded against the SoundCore Liberty 3 Pro. Just take a listen and we'll come back and we'll tell you what we thought of it. SoundCore Liberty 3 Pro, quiet conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. SoundCore Space A40, quiet conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. SoundCore Liberty 3 Pro, noisy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. SoundCore Space A40, noisy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, icicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. SoundCore Liberty 3 Pro, windy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. SoundCore Space A40, windy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. SoundCore Space A40, windy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, test, testing, 1, 2, 3.
So for quiet conditions, we have no problems with any of these. They work great. But damn, something is seriously up with the microphones on the SoundCore in noisy and windy conditions. The voice sounds super nasal and muffled. No other earbuds we tested have sounded quite so bad on microphone tests, so we can only hope that this is fixed with updates. The noise reduction that the microphones are doing in the wind is also really weird, and it just destroys the higher frequencies, making you sound like someone has clamped down on your nostrils. We had to do a couple of recordings to make sure that this wasn't a mistake, but every time we got the same result. You can clearly see the difference in the noisy conditions. Even though there is some noise reduction happening, it's not quite the same. However, again, we don't know if it's just us, but the voice algorithm is somehow letting in the higher frequencies, and that's a bit troubling to our ears. For calls, we much prefer the Samsung and the One More. And you know what? We won't go into too much details here, but hopefully there's an update coming for the Space A40 to fix this. Also for calls, only answer or hang up call controls worked. No volume, mute, ANC, etc. Maybe this is unit variance or it is to be fixed via software updates, because the manual does say they all should work. So overall, we were not very impressed with the microphone and calling situations. Fuckman, no approve.
In terms of sound, you could call the SoundCore flat, but my feeling was that these came across as very warm and have a more pronounced bass region than what I'm used to with SoundCore. The treble sounds very natural to my ears, but it's definitely not the star of the show. I'm a bit surprised because this is very different from how the SoundCore Liberty 3 Pro works. While the resolution is good because of LDAC, the treble just isn't as airy as what we're used to from SoundCore. In the presets, I actually chose the treble booster, and even then, the treble wasn't too much. So overall, these drivers do good for a balanced sound, but don't expect excellence at the top end. And the fact that they don't respond to EQ as much makes these not our top pick for sound. Yes, there's a difference between having an EQ option in the app versus having the hardware to engage with those adjustments. So out of all the buds we're comparing here, the Space A40 would be our lowest pick. But how do we say it? This is like a race where all 4 runners finish within the same second. So yeah, if someone came in last, it doesn't mean that they're terrible. Samsung is the only one in this range that doesn't have LDAC, and so they work best with Samsung phones. But for sound, we think the Buds 2 are a great choice, despite their lack of EQ. And our favorite for fun, the Edifier NeoBuds Pro, remains our top pick for this price range, even if the bass is ever so slightly too much. Remember, true wireless earbuds are used when you're out and about, so the extra bass doesn't bother us as much as sitting in an anechoic chamber. The Space A40 is very similar to the One More Evo, and that's saying something, considering the Evo is more expensive and has a dual driver setup. So the point here is, yes, if you're very choosy and nitpicky, yes, you may choose the Samsung or the Edifier, but the Space A40 will have you covered for most cases.
SoundCore's solid app is easily the best out of these 4. It gives you all the choices and neatly laid out, full customization, and no weird shady business with random notifications and a weird interface for EQ. Edifier. In addition, along with the One More, the SoundCore are the only set of buds offering multi-point. And we were fairly happy in our time with it, though it was less perfect than the other multi-point devices we've used. You will have to give up LDAC when you go from multi-device with the SoundCore. However, with the One More, there are no such compromises required. LDAC and dual device both can be activated at the same time. However, only the SoundCore has a beautiful device list in the app, so you know exactly what you're connected to. With Samsung, it's a bit complicated. You can log in with your Samsung account and switch between phones, which is nice, but not everyone has a Samsung account, and this only works with Android devices. But what Samsung does allow you to do is pull connection from a previously paired device. Very nice. SoundCore's app also gives you access to a gaming mode, which all these buds have except the One More. Only Samsung, SoundCore, and One More give you the ability to pause your music when taking your buds out of your ears. However, Samsung strangely only does this when you take both your buds out of your ears. Weird choice. With the Edifier, you get no smart pausing.
So at the end of the day, the SoundCore Space A40 isn't exactly a slam dunk for us. Yes, it has a great app, decent sound, and very good battery life, but is that enough? For example, the Edifier NeoBuds Pro is still a solid pick for a lot of things. Sound, ANC, comfort, IP rating, and transparency. The Samsung Buds 2 has a compact size and has many additional features for Samsung phone owners, but definitely not for iPhone owners since you don't get the Galaxy wearable app on iOS. The One More Evo has the most premium design and build, a full-fledged feature list, and does well for calls. So it comes down to this, the price. Given the prices as they stand right now, all other things being equal, the Buds 2 from Samsung is probably the best choice on balance. Yes, it didn't win too many of the categories we've talked about, but it's just very good value. And Samsung often throws it in for free, which means you can probably get a sealed, unopened pair someone selling on Marktplatz or whatever your eBay variant is. It's obviously got some trade-offs, but we would feel comfortable recommending it. The One More Evo clearly is excellent in many areas too, but it's right now the most expensive on this list. It does get discounted very often though, so check out the links in the description. The Edifier does excellently on a few things, but fails on some things like its app, extra features, and battery life. And the SoundCore is a perfectly decent set of earbuds that does many things very well, but sometimes stops short of excellence. The choice isn't very straightforward, but we hope we've helped a little bit. If you did, a like would help us out a lot. We will also make a comparison of the best earbuds under $100 or euros soon, so stay tuned for that one. It's gonna be a zinger. You've not been going with the hype, and we've been DHRME. Namaste.